So, but I'm going to read it through once to get a sense of how everything worked together, and we'll see how this works out. Act 1. Enchanted Lands Magical Resort was sold to a mysterious figure by the ruler of the kingdom. This figure named Max has systematically closed down most of the resort. Many people have disappeared, including most of the friends of the wizard and chief advisor to the king, Hubert. Hubert gets external help by bringing in John, a young man from our realm. While on his way home from work, John stops in at a store, gets favorite candy bar with a silver ticket inside. John looks at the silver ticket and says some words in the fine print, and a portal opens. John steps through the portal into a train cabin when he sees a beautiful young woman. Chester, a friendly dragon, lands at the entrance to the Cave of Splendor. He walks around the cave system under Dragon Mount, trying to find his friends, who are nowhere to be seen. Chester then leaves and flies around to find some of his friends. On his trip, he sees a village burned down by one of them and rams the dragon hard enough to stop. Before the other dragon could recover, Chester flies back to his cave to pick up a few shiny objects. He then goes out again searching for more of his friends. The beautiful young woman is kidnapped when the train cabin starts tumbling, causing John to fall and black out. John awakens in a forest without leaves as Hubert walks over and introduces himself. Hubert tells John that he brought him here to help him find out why Enchanted Lands was closed. Zanzibar the Great, a magician, con artist, and thief, manages to escape the police in our realm into Enchanted Lands. Zanzibar then does a few tricks for the first locals he sees. He then gets his crow, Corvus, to steal from them. Hubert sends John to night school and Princess Prep to figure out what's happening. Hubert himself goes to examine Wizard U and Fairy God College. Roland, the half-dwarf, half-giant, approaches the entrance to the dwarf mines. An old dwarf Roland knows stumbles out and tells him his dad is trapped in the Gnome Kingdom. At the night school entrance, John talks to the guards and then gains entrance to the school. After asking around, he learns a princess was going to speak at Princess Prep but never made it. Someone tells John the knights are using real weapons and dragons are terrorizing small villages. The Grand Enchanted Landing is the first stop on the princess's tour when John sneaks into Princess Prep. Zanzibar does some more shows, one with Max attending, and manages to steal from him without notice. Max later finds his money gone and then confronts Zanzibar and makes a deal with him. Max helps Zanzibar with larger productions in exchange for doing some tax collection for Max. As Chester catches up to Phil friends, he tries to break them out of the spell with some of the shinies. When that doesn't work, he tries to breathe fire on them. That doesn't work either. Desperate, he flies to Nestor's cave where Nestor's about ready to fight when Chester speaks. Chester and Nestor discuss the dragons, and Nestor tells Chester about Cricket's control. Hubert sneaks into Wizard U and examines the Hall of Fame paintings and notices one is missing. Roland goes into Dwarf's extensive and well-crafted mines. Remembering a secret entrance, Roland gets into the Gnome Kingdom. At Fairy God College, an old friend tells Hubert to violate his pact and forcing students to become evil witches. Roland happens to know all the people working the mines and finally spots a giant chain to a smelter. The giant is Roland's dad and tells him to find Hubert and tell him Mac wants a lot of Quicksilver. John and Hubert rendezvous at Scarborough Fried Chicken at the Renaissance Fair. Since the princess was kidnapped for a reason, they decide to find her and rescue her if possible. Hubert contacts his old friend the Count and tells him to turn into a bat to see if he can find the princess. The princess, tied up to a wine cask in the cellar, managed to escape her ropes with the help of some mice. She then tries to escape by getting into the dumbwaiter, to which she is forced upstairs. She stumbles upon a room with some maps and other documents which she grabs, but is recaptured. The Count comes back and tells John and Hubert what he found. Max pulls Scarlet Red Clover out of hiding and asks her to go and conscript the werewolves into his service. Red tells the werewolves led by Rottweiler that they might be rid of their curse if they join Max's army. Kurt, Rottweiler's second in command, goes to meet with Violet after remembering Red and Violet's rivalry. Violet agrees to help Kurt become the leader of the pack if Kurt eliminates Red. Act 2. Zanzibar decides to skim money off of the taxes he's collecting. Max finds out that Zanzibar is stealing money from the taxes but doesn't know where yet. Hubert and John go to the Grand Enchanted Lands Hotel and arrive at the side door with some guards in front. Hubert casts a spell which doesn't work at first, wagon with food. As they go into the kitchen, find a secret passage into the wine cellar. John clocks the guard he's watching the princess with a heavy wine bottle. They try to walk out of the side doors calmly and slowly, and someone yells she's escaped. The Black Knight rides up on his black charger as our heroes run to an empty carriage. The guard that was knocked out runs out of the side doors and tells the Black Knight to get them. As our heroes speed away, the Black Knight starts chasing after them. Max uses Zanzibar's shows to abduct more citizens and tourists. When he's got enough people working the mines, he proposes to Zanzibar to do one final big show. Zanzibar readily agrees after Mac finds his stash. The princess looks back and says something about the Black Knight looking familiar. The princess asks the cook about the Black Knight taste for unicorn meat, and the cook confirms. The princess then tells John and Hubert that this is the same Black Knight that hunted all the unicorns in her realm. The princess then asks Hubert if there are any unicorns around. Hubert replies that this is the same Black Knight hunted their own unicorn, but he hasn't left yet. Max confronts Zanzibar about the money he's stealing and then threatens this is his last show and that he will perform it. Zanzibar performs his last show and then sends Corvus to gather up the loot. Hubert, the princess, and John eventually come to the forest without leaves on the trees to slow down a bit. They spot a unicorn out of the way, standing and looking around. As they approach the unicorn, it only looks at them instead of running away. The princess hops out and starts petting him and talking to him. John tells the princess they don't have time and she glares at him. The princess asks the unicorn if he's lost. The unicorn stamps its foot once. The princess then tells him to do that again and he does. The princess then asks him if he's a horse and he stamps his foot twice. She then asks him if he's a unicorn and he stamps his foot but one meaning yes. She asks if the Black Knight is chasing him, and the unicorn just looks at her. Hubert then tells her he must be losing his memory because they're in Lapwood. As Zanzibar is really big in last show, Max yells out, he just took all my money. The crowd looks angrily towards Zanzibar and start chasing him. Just then Max gets word that the Omni Gate is ready for testing, so he leaves for the castle. Zanzibar escapes out the back with his current earnings during the fusion. Karen tells Hubert to use his magic. When he replies half of his magic was stolen, Hubert tries anyway, and before long the unicorn is able to talk to them in human speak. The unicorn is unable to remember his name, though, and they all start walking together. Soon nobody remembers what they were doing. John notices Hubert wearing wizard garb and suggests he's a wizard and should cast a spell or something. Hubert reaches into a bag and pulls out some hats and puts them on. John then suggests he wiggles his fingers or something, and Hubert does, and instantly they're teleported elsewhere. Roland walks to the empty, open restaurant in town, Scarborough for a chicken. Roland looks around and starts to ask about Hubert until finally getting the Count sitting down at a table. Roland then asks the Count if he has any idea where Hubert is. The Count replies he was supposed to show up here, but doesn't know what happened to him. The Count says he'll go and fly around and see if he can spot him. Roland sits down at the table as the Count turns into a bat and takes off. The werewolves tell Red they want proof, and she goes and gets Max, who promptly gets rid of the curse for a few of them. The werewolves led by Rottweiler throw Red into a hut and discuss, and then Kurt comes back. The werewolves discuss joining Max's army after a heated debate, agree, and they bring Red back out. Red goes back to Max with a positive answer as Kurt and several others audibly dissent. Hubert, John, and the Princess and Sir William the Unicorn wake up on the road with a big headache. Hubert mentions they must have been in Lapswood because of the splitting headache. Hubert then notices they're on the road to the Bats and Belfry Hotel, and they travel there. At the Bats and Belfry, Hubert dings the bell loudly a few times. The Count Azabat comes right in and rematerializes in front of them. Hubert mentions that they had a bit of trouble rescuing the princess, but all is well now. The Count mentions Roland is looking for him, and he tells the Count to go get Roland and bring him here. Once there, Roland tells them that there are slaves working Max's Quicksilver mines in the Gnome Kingdom. After reviewing the papers, they notice blueprints for something called an Omni Gate and start formulating a plan. Hubert sends Roland and John into the mines. Hubert tells Sir William that they're going to have to infiltrate the administration castle. Hubert casts a spell on Sir William, hoping to turn him into a bird. Sir William starts growing wings and then starts flapping them and achieving lift. Sir William tells Hubert to hop on and that they'll fly to the castle. Chester presents Nestor with his shiny polished stone. They both talk about the past. After finding out their long-lost twin brothers, Chester and Nestor go on a search for Crooktooth. The Black Knight looks in the direction of the dwarf mines and sees a flying unicorn with the wizard atop flying upward. Roland and John use a secret door to gain entrance to the Gnome Kingdom. Max has his techs activate the machine for the first time. First, at half power, he has them open a few gates, and then a few more. Thousands of gates are opened simultaneously and then shut off. Hubert tracks down Violet and confronts her while Sir William decides to go back to the Count's hotel. Roland and John locate the office in the mines. Roland and John then spot the dwarves tied and gagged on the floor. Sneaking in, Roland easily snaps the bonds holding them. Roland and John are then surprised and captured by the gnomes. With Violet present, Hubert casts a spell that causes his magic to return to him. The guards alerted to Hubert's presence chase him to the train station. While Sir William is flying, a huge black dragon swoops out of the sky and hits him full on. The Black Knight sits atop Crooktooth, his black dragon, as he prepares for another collision. Sir William, after falling a bit, regains his balance and starts flying towards Crooktooth. Sir William gets a few hits, but doesn't do much damage to Crooktooth as he knocks him out of the sky again. While falling, Crooktooth prepares for another run when out of nowhere comes two other dragons. These are Chester and Nestor, brothers who helped Sir William fight the Black Knight and his dragon. The gnomes promptly put John, Roland, and the rest to work. Back in the mines, John signals the dwarves to overpower the guards. There's an explosion that seems to come from one of the mine walls. When the smoke clears, a train appears to have crashed into the mine. Hubert pops out of the train. The battle between the Black Knight atop Crooktooth and Sir William and the twins ends quickly. Red goes back to the werewolf village, and Kurt jumps out of the bushes, and they tumble back into the forest. Kurt then takes Red's riding hood back to Violet. Kurt then reveals Red was promising to remove their curses and that he didn't want that, and he asked for Violence to enhance it. Violet agrees if he steals the totem of leadership and brings it to her, because she claims it will bind the pack to him. Back in the mines, gnome guards are easily overpowered after they hear what sounds like an explosion. The slaves get released and start to run out of the mines. Hubert shouts for everyone to head to the Bats and the Belfry Hotel. Hubert changes Sir William back into a man. Hubert sends John and Sir William to night school to inform and enlist their help. Act 3. When Kurt gets back from his second meeting with Violet, he goes into Rottweiler's hut and starts to grab the totem. Thorn, Rottweiler's third in command, stops Kurt from getting the totem, and they fight, and Kurt takes the totem. Kurt goes back to Violet, and she casts a spell, which visibly alters Kurt and his pack, and then he goes back. Kurt disposes of Rottweiler and his followers, except for Thorn, who was hiding, and then takes his place as leader. The Princess, Hubert, and John make plans to rescue the fairy godmothers and vacation princesses. The Count makes a deal with the princess to help him find a mate if he helps her with the finding of the princesses. The Count then hides in her handbag. The princess goes back to Princess Prep, sees a note to go to Fairy God College with a password and then returns there. The princess gets into Fairy God College with the password, and then she has to throw her bag into a box. The princess is taken to the library as the box with her handbag goes into another room with an incinerator. She's asked to grab some books. She opens one and is immediately sucked inside. Before being thrown in, the Count causes the attendant to trip, and the Count goes into hiding. The Count then spots a girl going into the library and follows her. The Count then sees the girl being sucked into a book and figures this must be what happened to the princess. The Count, who was in her handbag as a bat, makes it back to Hubert and John, and they all go back to Fairy God College. With Hubert's full magic, they force their way in, then release the vacation fairy godmothers and go and get the books. Back to the Bastion Belfry, John goes into the books to bring Karen out. They instruct Sir William and his men to go into the rest of the books and retrieve the rest of the vacation princesses. Afterward, the Count comes to Karen and asks if she can help him now, and she just points. Count looking at where she's pointing meets a beautiful woman who happens to also be a vampire and a real princess. Roland Sr. and Roland Jr. head to the North Country where his people are. Max finds out that John and Roland and most of the slaves were rescued by Hubert. Max gets suspicious of Red's long absence, so gets a servant to go and find out what happened. The servant returns later with Red's hood and tells Max that it was in the possession of Violet. A lot of knights or knights in training listen to what Sir William has to say. All the knights and knights in training agree to help our heroes. After going to the werewolf village with Violet and confronting her and Kurt about Red, he kills Kurt with a fireball. Violet runs into the forest, and Max says he'll make anyone the leader who disposes of her. Thorn comes back, but before giving him the totem, he says he'll only give it back if they agree to join his army. The werewolves under Thorn agree to join the army, and Max gives him the totem before returning to the castle. The heroes meet at the Bats and Belfry Hotel. While everyone gathers around, even spilling into the streets, Hubert speaks to the crowd. Max and his guards assemble the armies of creatures and men. Max orders his technicians to put the machine at full power and then opens all the portals. As soon as all the armies are assembled, he starts seeing a large amount of trains flying in. Realizing who they are, he commands his armies to attack them. A large battle ensues. The battle starts waning in favor of the Enchanted Lands. John spots Max trying to escape via one of the portals and chases him. John tackles Max, but Max throws him off and he starts running for a stairwell. John chases Max up the stairs and onto a catwalk, and they begin to fight. John still has his silver ticket, and Max manages to grab it out of his coat. While still grabbing for the ticket, he pulls John down with him as he goes over the edge. John holds on to the catwalk with his feet as Max dangles below. Max starts slipping with the ticket in hand, eventually falls. John turns away and Max falls, and when he turns back, Max is just gone. Coming back down, out of breath and full of bruises and scratches, he notices the battle is almost over. As the battle comes to a close, the princess and Hubert manage to make their way over to John. Eventually, all that's left is the cleanup. Sometime later in the throne room, Hubert talks privately to John and Princess Karen. Hubert states that John is probably going to become king. Hubert mentions the real king is still missing. He also mentions that Max is still alive somewhere. John mentions he wants to have a date with Princess Karen. Hubert finally sets it up and gives it some magical touches. He then leaves them in peace to eat dinner and to talk. The end. How do you like that?